Welcome. I'm glad you could join me. This is Alfred Eugene Pearl, and we're looking into the book of the Revelation. We're currently studying the fifth seal, and this time we're going to take a look at Jacob's prophecy. Now, here is the entire description of the fifth seal, and if you read that, you won't find a single reference to Jacob's prophecy or any aspect of Jacob's prophecy. So, why do I feel the fulfillment of Jacob's prophecy has taken place during the fifth seal? You see, I'm what I refer to comically as a pan-eschatologist. Eschatology refers to the end times or the last days, and the word means last. Eschatos means last. And a pan-eschatologist is somebody who just waits and sees how things pan out. So consistent with this methodology, I look at history and current events, and I try to see where and when and where prophecy has been fulfilled. And I think I see the fulfillment of Jacob's prophecy in this fifth seal period that we're in now. So let's take a look at Jacob's prophecy and see where we go from there. Now, the first verse of Genesis 49, Jacob calls his sons together and says, "Gather round, boys. I'm going to tell you that which is going to take place or befall you in the last days." So this prophecy just internally says it refers to the last days. So let's take a look at it. Well, after we look at this, obviously. Now, these are the 13 tribes of Israel. There are 14 tribe names, but because Ephraim and Manasseh are sons of Joseph and were adopted by Jacob, there are only 13 actual tribes. Got it? So 12 tribes, you only see 12 tribes ever listed, but there are 13 actual tribes and 14 tribe names, okay? Okay, now, so when Jacob called his sons together, he's actually calling only his natural-born sons. Ephraim and Manasseh are not in this list. So, naturally, oh, that's the next slide. Okay. So, when we look at this, geez, where's that slide? There, no. Okay, there it is. When we look at these standards on these tribes of these principal four tribes, on the standard of the tribe of Ephraim was the ox. But because Ephraim and Manasseh are not on this list in Genesis 49, then Joseph, of course, is the tribe we're looking for to represent Ephraim and, of course, the image on his standard, the ox, which would correspond to the age pertaining to Israel. Oh, you see what I mean there? In an earlier study, we looked at we undertook a study called Learning the Bible Crosswise, and then we looked at a study called Roadmap of the Ages, and we correlated this pattern of God's throne with numerous things throughout the Bible. And of course, the ox is that living creature that corresponds with the age pertaining to the chosen people. So now we can look at this prophecy. Now, we're going to take these verse by verse. So let's take a look at that verse 22. Joseph is a fruitful bough, even a fruitful bough by a well, whose branches run over the wall. I believe this is fulfilled in the nation of Israel today. We're in the last days, the latter days, and I believe the latter days began when Israel became a nation, based on this Genesis 49 prophecy where Jacob says, "Gather round, boys, I'm going to show you what will befall you in the last days." So, since its founding, modern Israel has become an agricultural powerhouse and an exporter of agricultural product. I think that's a fulfillment of this verse 22 of this prophecy, the prophecy over Joseph, where it says, you're a fruitful bough by a well whose branches run over the wall. Verse 23, the archers have sorely grieved him, shot at him, hated him. Israel's continually attacked by rockets from their detractors, their adversaries. These people called the Palestinians who they've given land to in exchange for peace, and instead of peace, they get rocket attacks daily. So, and Israel is the focus of the Arab world's hate. So they've shot at him and hated him, and I believe that's fulfilled. Now, but his bow abode in strength, and the arms of his hands were made strong by the hands of the mighty God of Jacob. From thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. And of course, Israel has remained militarily viable. And I believe it is a blessing from the mighty God of Jacob that they've been able to do that. And I think it's fascinating. It says, from thence is the shepherd, the stone of Israel. because that's the God whose Son is Jesus Christ. And of course, that also brings us to the stone cut without hands that broke the Nebuchadnezzar's polymetallic image to destruction. Fascinating. Anyway, verse 25. We're going to cut this into three slides. Even by the God of thy father who shall help thee, and by the Almighty who shall bless thee. And certainly Yahweh has blessed Israel, else they wouldn't have fallen. Else they would have fallen to their numerically superior adversaries the many times they've been attacked in 48, 58, 67, 73. If God wasn't with them, they certainly wouldn't have been successful in those wars. With the blessings of heaven above. Now, you might make the case that this refers to weather and the fact that they've had good weather, but I don't know. Sometimes prophecies, because technology that we have today didn't exist back then. Often I prefer to see quaint and ancient prophecies referring to modern technology. And of course, the Israeli Air Force is the best equipped and trained in the entire region, possibly even the world. So, if you don't want to accept that, okay, fine, we can still be friends. But I see that, and maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? Maybe I'm wrong about a lot of things. It's up to you to search the scriptures to verify these things are so. And let's go on. Blessings of the deep that lieth under. Oil was recently discovered off of Israel's coast, under the deep. I think that's fascinating. The blessings of the breasts and the womb. The Israeli birth rate now exceeds that of any other demographic in the nation, including the Arab womb. Now, this isn't the final. Yeah, it is. The final prophecy, the blessings of thy father have prevailed above the blessings of my progenitors unto the utmost bound of the everlasting hills. And they shall be on the head of Joseph, and on the crown of the head of him that was separate from his brethren. The name Joseph means increase. Joseph's peculiar heritage is that he would increase in status and position until he was second only to Pharaoh in Egypt. He went from prison to being Pharaoh's right-hand man. And God did increase the nation Israel. From 1948, when they came into the land, every time they were attacked by their enemies, they seemed to gain ground. They took the Sinai from Egypt. They took the Golan from Syria. They gained the Gaza Strip, the West Bank. Every time they're attacked, they gain a big chunk of land. At one point, I think they even took some land in Lebanon, didn't they? That just occurred to me, and I'm not sure about that. I didn't research it before this. So you're on your own to determine that. Now that was up until Jimmy Carter in 1978, and the treaty that Israel made, agreeing to give back land. You see, God blessed them with this land, and in giving it back, it's like a slap in God's face. Matter of fact, it's a parallel to when Moses led them out of Egypt. They sent 12 spies into the land, and 10 spies came back and said they were shaking in their boots. Oh, we can't do it. No, the people are big, they're giants, and we're like grasshoppers, and they consume the inhabitants there. No, we're not going to do it. And of course, Joshua and Caleb came back and said, the land is ripe for taking. We can do this. God's given it to us. Let's go. And the people chose fear over faith, and God condemned them to 40 years wandering in the wilderness. And I believe Israel, since 1978, has been in a spiritual wandering in the wilderness where they've not taken any land. As a matter of fact, they've lost land in these various land for peace deals over and over and over. And they've now given back all the land that God increased to them. But in 1970, so 40 years from 78 will be 2018. And that situation will abate, and it'll be interesting to see what lies ahead for the nation Israel as God begins to increase them to the size that he promised to them repeatedly throughout their history. So here's all the prophecies. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is just a prophecy over Joseph. And now we're going to move on to Dan. We're only going to look at Joseph and Dan, or Ephraim and Dan. And I'll be honest with you. I don't know who the other tribes represent in the world today. I can only see these two. corresponding and paralleling Israel and a nation, a Christian nation whose ensign or symbol is an eagle. And I believe that is, of course, the United States. So once again, here's this chart, or this graphic, the eagle corresponding to the ecclesia, the called out of Jesus Christ. Now here's the prophecy over Dan, these 3 verses. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. Dan shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path, that biteth the horse's heels, so that his rider shall fall backwards. I have waited for thy salvation, O Lord. So this prophecy, that according to verse 1 pertains to the latter days, or the last days, involves horses and riders. Ironically, in Revelation, in the seals of Revelation 6, we have seen 4 horsemen, the white, red, black, and green horse. And of course, each has a rider. And what that white horseman, we said earlier, represents humanism, rationalism, this the unholy alliance that has spawned evolution and eugenics and the genocide, and combined with pragmatism, the genocide of World War II, the killing of 6 million Jews. So anyway, see, these 4 world domination ideologies, humanism, communism, mercantilism, and Islamofascism, each seeks global dominance in a different arena. Only humanism seeks academic preeminence. Only communism seeks political tyranny. Only mercantilism seeks global financial monopoly. And only Islamofascism seeks religious dominance. So because they seek hegemony in a separate quarter, they can coexist easily. They don't fight against each other. They can be united, even though they don't seem to be at times. So anyway, back to this. So let's look at America and see if we can find fulfillments since 1948, when each one of these ideologies was bitten in the heels and fell backwards. Now, it doesn't say that each one was vanquished. It says they were bitten in the heels and fell backwards. So, 20 years after Israel became a nation, in April of 1968, President Lyndon Baines Johnson signed the final of 4 civil rights acts into law, making racial discrimination illegal. I see that as a fulfillment of the biting in the heels, the first horseman of the apocalypse. Now, what about the second horse, red communism? Was it bitten in the heels in a Christian nation represented by an eagle? Well, 20 years after 1968, in the spring of 1988, President Reagan traveled to Moscow, and he delivered an eloquent address on the blessings of democracy, individual freedom, and free enterprise. And of course, the following year, the Berlin Wall came tumbling down, and communism collapsed in Eastern and Western Europe. And I think that prophecy has been fulfilled. What about the next horse, this black horseman, this third horseman? Was the banking, government corruption, and corporate alliance of corruption bitten in the heels in a Christian nation represented by an eagle? Well, I'd love to be able to tell you that President Bush did it all. This shining example of Christianity signed some bill into law and caused the economy to collapse, but I can't. I don't know if he had anything to do with it, but his detractors give him full marks, full credit. So, I mean, they blame Bush for this financial collapse, so okay, fine. Let's give him credit. Who am I to argue with such an august body of sagacious elites? Anyway, these guys all took a dive in 2008 and are on everybody's, well, let's just say their bad list today. So the fourth horseman of the apocalypse, will it be bitten in the heels in 2018? Is it a 3-10 scenario, with the first 3 occurring in 68, 88, and 2008, 20 years apart, and the final one being 10 years down the road? I think so, but again, I'm a pan-eschatologist. I'll just wait and see how it pans out, then take a view. Next up, the 6th seal, the day of the Lord, and it's all future from here on out. It's only a hypothetical model. It's not fulfillments, and so as a pan-eschatologist, all I can do is speculate, and that's all anybody can do. So that's what our next study will be. God bless, and I